Hello and very warm welcome to the Rise interview, 60 minutes of big questions about the big stories from the news and beyond with fresh insight and critical analysis. I am Christian Ogodo. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and thanks for joining us. Coming up in the next hour, following the increase in reported cases of rape and the killing of women and girls in the country, an international development organization, ActionAid Nigeria, has called on Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari to declare a state of emergency on gender-based violence. The group also wants rape to be declared a crime without options of bail or out-of-court settlement. We'll hear from the country director of ActionAid Nigeria. And later, is Nigeria not in too much debt already? That's the million or billion dollar questions, as President Muhammadu Buhari's loan request has again been approved by the country's Senate or National Assembly. Nigeria's President Buhari met a foreign debt of $7 billion in 2015, which has now been increased to $30 billion. The president has gotten a nod to go for a fresh budget loan of $5.5 billion. Today, we'll examine the impact of these loans on the nation's economy. That's coming up in a moment. And since the lockdown in March 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, ActionAid Nigeria and her partners say they have documented a total of 253 cases of gender-based violence in Bauchi, Cross River, Enugu, Kebbi, and Kwara State. According to their report, there is an upsurge in gender-based violence in Nigeria in recent times, causing girls, women, both young and old, to live in fear of the unknown as they are no longer safe in their homes. One such recent case is a 16-year-old Tina Ezekwe who was shot by a trigger-happy police officer and died 2 days later. And the 18-year-old victim, identified as Jennifer, remains traumatized after she was gang-raped by 5 men who drugged her and Uwa Vera Omozua, the 22-year-old undergraduate of the University of Benin, who was raped while reading in a church near her home, just to mention but a few. Also, the Nigerian Senate is asking the federal government to launch a campaign against brutality and rape, especially of the girl child.
Brutality and rape cases against the girl child in Nigeria on the rise, with some of these cases reported and several others admittedly unreported. Further aware that the girl child has become clearly endangered in Nigeria. Worried that our young girls may no longer have the confidence to live their normal lives, the average young girl in Nigeria is obviously becoming terrified and scared to live with and trust her close male relatives and neighbors.
I believe that we need to make the penalties for rape stiffer to be sufficient deterrent for those who are involved in this or who even aspire and desire to be involved. We have to save our future. And these girls and women are the future of this nation.
Okay, that's the Senate coming really hard on rapists there. And I've now been joined by NLB, ActionAid Nigeria's country director. Hello, Ene. This is not, a very happy situation. I can see the frown on your face. Is it, of course, it is becoming unbecoming, as people would say. Women or girls are not confident and free again to walk the streets, whether in daytime or at night. Very worrisome development, right?
Yes, it is. The kind of, since COVID-19, it has been there, but there's an increase. And so within this short period, having documented that, you're finding cases where, how can 4 men rape an 8-year-old? How can, 11 men rape an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old? How can fathers now committing incense all over the place? There is a lot of violence in terms of wife battering. You're having a lot of insanity going around. And I think why this is going on is, like the case of Uwavera. Nobody has been arrested.
No, somebody has been arrested yesterday.
Someone just, a friend of mine talked to the Attorney General of the state just now as I was coming into the studio. And I'm told that nobody has been arrested. They are willing to prosecute, but who is to be arrested? Who has been arrested? And the culture of silence of our people. Mothers are frustrated. Mothers of these children are quite frustrated because they don't know what to do. Children are traumatized. I think it is when you personalize what is going on. Supposing this happens to your girl, to your daughter, to your sister, we need to remove it from a data to say a Nigerian child, a Nigerian girl is violated. Supposing it's your sister. I thought boys protect their sisters. For parents, what do you do when you have it from your own daughter, when your daughter is violated, gang raped by about 6 men? And in the case of Jigawa, where we found out that these people confess, to having violated this girl at different times, and now they gang raped her. What have people done? In most of the cases, you find out that because of the culture of silence about our culture, don't say anything because your daughter will be violated, your daughter will be stigmatized, and so on. We do have, the laws have been promulgated. The law was adopted by the National Assembly, but I'm happy to hear that the National Assembly is saying, make it stiffer. And that is why we are calling on the president of the country to declare a state of emergency, and by declaring a state of emergency to put stiffer laws that anyone who gang rapes or who rapes a woman or a girl child will not have an option of fine. Because if it's your child, what would you like to happen? If it's your daughter that this has happened to. And so we just need to do something. That's why we're calling for, the state of emergency. And I think we need to pull it out.
253 documented cases.
Yeah.
There just could be more.
Yeah.
You were citing the example in Jigawa, for example, 11 people gang raping
a 12-year-old.
A 12-year-old child. Have they been prosecuted?
They have not been prosecuted. We want to commend the efforts of the police, because in most cases when you make the report, the police will come make the arrest and so on and so forth. But we found out that people go behind and start settling out of court, start pleading, communities rally around the people, but we are watching, documenting case by case.
But meanwhile, so much damage would have been done to the life of the little
the dignity of the girl child, the dignity of the woman. And in this, COVID environment,
period.
Women and even grandmothers are not spared. You have a cross-section of women and girls being raped. And so what happens thereafter? If it happens to you, the mother Africa used to respect the dignity of the woman. What has happened? There is a lot of destruction of the system, degradation of the kind of culture that we had valued over the years in Africa. And so if the girl is not safe, and if the girl is arrested, because most times when there is a battering, we go into, in terms of battering, which has really increased. In Enugu alone, we have about, this month, we have about 81 cases. Either it is rape, or it is wife battering, or you have so many issues that are coming up. And how many, you have cases, people are arrested, but have they been, prosecuted? When have they been convicted? People are not being convicted because there is a lot of laws of what there was a case of a young girl who was raped, by a student, last year. We all came up and we did all that we could, but even the police was indicted in that case. We're still following up. There hasn't been any conviction, any prosecution because of COVID-19. And I hope that we just need to get it home, that this can happen to your sister, it can happen to your wife. Would you want to marry in the future? You are going to have wives for your children, isn't it? When they are violated, where is the dignity of the human person? And then the trauma that the girl has to live through.
The degradation from your findings, because your organization ActionAid
Yes.
seems to really work in this area, you know, the girl-child development, the women development, and the rest. Is it fueled by drugs, psychological dimension, the economic situation, you know, of all these factors?
For us, there is no excuse.
Okay.
Whether you have taken drugs, whether you have gone through some trauma or whatever you have gone through, we can't make excuses for such violations. You know, there are some cases where they say maybe it's drugs and then they accuse the devil. When their eye is clear, when you have done the deed, then you say it's the devil. The devil has really suffered. You know, because things we shouldn't take to the devil, we call the devil's name. And so when it comes across, you cannot make any excuses. Well, how do you make an excuse between a father violating a child and continuously violating a child? Where has the society gone to? And so when the rapist, you know, comes and do the deed, whatever they have done is the life after. How does the child manage? The trauma. There are mothers, you know, calling and say, what can we do? Ours, organization is a social justice organization. It's human right. We use human right-based approach and looking at the rights, the dignity of the human person. And so where do we go from here if we are walking tall when the most vulnerable, who are the most vulnerable? Across the country, across Africa, we're finding out that women are the most vulnerable. When it comes to ethnic clashes, women are the ones that are violated. Women and children, you know, they are violated. You know, so they become weapons of war. Some of them get pregnant. You are pregnant with a child of who you don't know. And you are pregnant with a child of an enemy. How do you cope with that child? Some children are left behind by all of the atrocities that are being committed. You have so many unwanted pregnancies. You don't know what to do because as a someone who is religious, you don't want to kill a child. And so how do you live with that child? How does the mother move on? You become a single mother, not out of your dealing. And then when the child is pregnant, you say, no, it's not me. Even when they want to settle and say, okay, you are the father of this child or whatever. We have so many unwanted pregnancies. Girls being deceived into sexual relationships that they're not ready for, but they just want to have a taste of the girl. It results into pregnancy, she's ignored. And so how does the society reckon with such a person? How do they reckon with the girls?
Right. And NLB, ActionAid Nigeria's country director, is still here with me. And the two recent cases, just less than a week ago, is a gruesome mother after raping Uwavera or Mozua, the University of Benin microbiology undergraduate that was raped in a church, what you consider a safe sanctity, violated and murdered. Yeah. Horrible.
What that is saying is the girl child is not safe anywhere. And who is to protect the girl child? Who is to protect the life of anyone else? It is the government. The government has the duty to protect every human being, every human life. What is the crime of the girl child? What is the crime of Wavera? She's a girl. Being a woman, a young woman, where else can you go? Even in the torture, I'm sure that the church will be traumatized. That where you think you are safe, you come in there and then you are still not safe. What is the country doing? What are we doing? Unless there are stiffer penalties. And that is why we are saying, let there be a state of emergency as connected with gender-based violence. Would the president or any of us here, would any one of us want to be a father or a mother of Wavera right now? Would you want to be in their position? We all have children. And so not only raping her, you have gang raped her. It's not enough. You smashed her. Smashed her head. What did she do? What's her crime? And what's the crime of the girl in Jigawa? What's her crime?
And Jennifer's crime,
and
killed by a police officer.
Jennifer was shot by, triggered what? What did she do? She's a girl child. Who should protect her? And when you are looking at so many cases, even the cases back last year where you had, the police raping a lot of people in the FCT, a lot of women in the FCT. Some of them, a lady a friend of mine, used to go and make hair at her salon. She was on her way back. She was raped by the police.
And where is that case now?
And where is the case now? Because nobody was arrested. She was on her way back. Around 9 p.m., the police, the police accosted her, and in the end, they raped her. After raping her, they let her go. Who is she going to report to? The truck was moving around and all the sanctity and the dignity of the human person. Would that police person, would they want that to be their wife or their sister or anyone else? So how are we going to change unless there are stiffer penalties that will dress down that this crime, there is no escape from it?
I was listening to the police force spokesman on a different program on national television today, and he says the problem with the police solving rape cases is that evidence are usually destroyed before the matters are even brought to the police station. Some, more than 72, some more than days, weeks, or months, and the rest. They said, how do you crack such, a case?
There are so many things that have been done now. A lot of people are not aware of what to do. Should should somebody be raped? Unless some people are aware, there is a lot that can be done. There's a damage that can be done if somebody is raped. You see, it's traumatizing enough to be raped. And then you have to go to the doctor, and it's a prescribed, definite doctors that you have to go to for them to take, for you to go and open yourself up again for them to see whether you were actually raped. And so they have to prove that. It is with that proof. But I think,
the onus seems too heavy for
it's so
the
heavy for the child, for the victim.
So
but for now, those are the cases that have gone to court. Those are the claims, or those are the claims of saying my word is not enough. Like you heard about the church, this church guy, Koza guy that was arrested, and he's now free. Because it's my word against yours.
After more than 22 years.
After more than how many years?
Yeah.
But it doesn't leave the victim. It doesn't just go away. Do you live with it? Can you live with it? And so you keep, that trauma goes on. And that is why the woman came out. But other women, people are saying you can, why don't you just forget? Just forget. It is not as easy. The stories of the victims is not as easy. You are traumatized. You come out, they will say, my child will not marry somebody who has been raped. Or my child will not, what is the life of a woman worth in today Nigeria? Because of the kind of trauma, because of the kind of systems that are going on. How do we protect that child? Yes, it's okay to say, because the cases are not, even when you batter, men batter their wives and they go to the police. Most times they say, why don't you just settle? I'm telling you, I'm saying that even on TV here, that if a man raises his hand up, I'm not waiting for you to bring it down. I'm out of that relationship. Yes, I've been married for so long. Well, maybe I'm lucky. The man doesn't. He has never tried anything like that. But there are reasons. There's so many things. Some people are used to that physical. And you should not leave your sisters, because many ladies have died because of battering. I will leave my sister or my daughter. If my daughter is married out, you raise your hand, you won't bring it down. I'll take my daughter from that place. But when it is an issue of love, it becomes contentious. They beat, somebody goes back again, they resolve it, you say, I will not beat you again with all the love, I love you, and then you stay there. The next thing you go and carry your sister's corpse. How do we respect the women who are even in our homes? Somebody's princess that was given to you, you never even knew how she was born. And then you walk up to them, to the parents, after the child has gone, like your own child, for example, has gone through nursery, pre-nursery or whatever, gone through secondary school, primary, secondary school, university, and one day somebody is knocking at the door. And then that's the girl that now becomes a shit that you have to be trashing. Where is the dignity of the human person? Where is the quality? A man who has quality does not beat, because where is your power?
Let me ask you this. Is it legal inadequacies, laws are not inadequate enough for such violators, you know, to really be prosecuted? You talked about the kind of, you know, stages a rape victim, for example,
They
will have
face
to
so
go
much.
through,
Yeah.
you know, to prove the case in court. But is it a matter of inadequate laws here that is hindering such prosecution, protection of the girl, child, and women? And why have we not heard anything about men being violated too, being raped too? They abound, don't they?
Well, when it comes like this, you have the majority of the cases. Who is the most vulnerable? Where is the majority of the cases? Are you hearing of the men being raped? Where are the cases? We need to be able to pull that out. And then when you are talking of what the raped victim has to go through, these days, because if it's within 72 hours, for example, if the lady knows where to go, they will be able to do prophylaxis, you know, to save the child, or the girl, from, you know, getting HIV and so on and so forth. So there is so much that has come up, you know, ever since. But there is, you know, not enough information. And then when you are having, you know, a lot of this that is going on, you find the parents of the girl, or the parents of the boy. Because the case we had in Enugu, which we brought here, we had a world press conference. Here we supported our call, you know, who is our partner. You know, we supported them, you know, to bring out, we even had to bring the victim down to Abuja, so that people will not think we're just saying these things out of context. But the parents of the boy went to the police negotiating. Why don't we settle out of court? We are saying that when it becomes a non-negotiable, if you think your devil has come to you, then you go and sit in prison with the devil. You know, so because what the person goes through is something that you cannot imagine. When they're arrested, we have to find some other evidence aside from what we have today. You know, be able to, we don't want a guy, you know, to be victimized. Because so you have to, the issue of proving the cases is still there. And then what we have right now is that we can settle out of court if the victim, sometimes if it's within a village or something, the chief of the place of the community can come and say, you know, why don't we just settle this? And I have worked, you know, across Africa. And there was a case of a woman whose husband used, you know, a stick into the whatever.
Her private.
Her private. And they took the lady like that to the police. This was one of the African countries. And when the police were mad, they were raving mad. Because sometimes when the police want to do it, it is the village, the people. The day they were going to take this guy to court, the villagers gathered and said, ask the lady to come back to them, that they will make everything okay for her. Let her come back, let her withdraw the case. The police guys were crazy and mad that you cannot forgive such a person. But again, that is when the girl child is left behind. When the girl child is left somewhere, because if she goes back home, where is she going to go to? What is her economic empowerment? Is she educated? And that is why the education of the girl child is paramount to everything.
It's important. It's very important.
Education of the girl child and empowerment of the girl child, that she could find herself, because these are issues that people have to deal with. We've had cases, even in the insurgents, where a lot of people, you know, women have
been raped and
and they have other children, and some of these women kill the children because so much is going on.